Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster. My name is Gaius Bowling, and as always, joined by the fellas.
Joined by the co-host Owen here, guys. Good to be back.
What's up? Recovering from a
How
long
you
weekend.
doing, man?
Recovering from a long
Yeah.
weekend.
Did you watch any movies this weekend?
I did like a little bit, but mostly it was just getting ready for St. Patrick's Day, which it falls on a Thursday
Mm-hmm.
this week, but here in the South Bay and maybe in most places, we prepare for it very early when it falls during the week.
Mm-hmm.
We do the weekend before.
That we do. That we do.
We're gluttons for punishment. I don't know. We were together for a lot of it, and we were agreeing on Saturday. And where we're at in Hermosa Beach, there's like there's a big parade. It's supposed to be like for families, so everyone brings their kids and stuff out. But I feel like the kids are out way too long, considering how rowdy it gets at the
The
bars.
debauchery that, yeah.
Yeah, but it's perfect because it like kind of inspires us for our today's episode, which is going to be about drinking and partying movies. You know, so that should be good. And we also have a special guest on. Jenny will be on after we talk shop.
Yes, she will. She's back to talk St. Paddy's Day, party movies, TV, and I'm just kind of going through and really just kind of talking about what our favorite ones are, what we enjoy about them, if they continue to be successful or not. There's a lot of them out there. So really looking forward to kind of hearing what you have to say about it and also get her advice as well.
Yeah, and I also asked a couple of people on our Instagram page to give us some of their favorites, and I think they're going to link up with a lot of the ones that we're going to talk about today. So that should be cool too.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's get talking shop out of the way because we can hurry up and get Jenny on. We have to talk about like some of the new stuff because we talked about this on our Batman episode last week about how like Warner Brothers said they were going to be like a well-oiled machine now and quality over quantity, and like it seemed like they were going that direction. Like the Batman is very successful in weekend 2. It did really well as well. But after that first big opening weekend, news drops first that they're delaying Black Adam from July to October. And that was the first story that leaked. And actually, Dwayne Johnson, he dropped that story himself. And then maybe
he wanted to get ahead of it,
I think so. And then maybe 20, 30 minutes after that, it was like, oh, also The Flash is pushed to 2023. Aquaman 2 is pushed to 2023. I guess the only good news is that they pulled Shazam, that sequel, from 2023, and they're going to release it in December of this year, but it's going to come out the same weekend as Avatar 2. So I don't know how smart. Cool. I don't know how smart some of those choices are. It just seems like a weird thing to do when you have all this momentum for a successful movie to really delay these projects like this, especially after they've been delayed already because of the pandemic and all that. It doesn't seem like a wise choice, but I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think that it just shows how DC just doesn't really know what they're doing. I feel like, but I think it's mostly to do with the studios in general. I think that they've kind of gotten the short end of the stick, but like you were saying, with them dropping the news that they want to be quality over quantity, like possibly pushing it back would be good to focus on the quality, but it just seems like they're already running into a whole lot of issues with everything that's going on. And I think it's smart for Dwayne Johnson to get ahead of it and say stuff like, and just basically say, hey, this is my take on it. Here's the reason why, so that there's no controversy that can kind of be started. So I think that's good. But so far, I'm not very impressed with the way that they're handling it, especially after such a big success with the Batman. So it just kind of sucks to see, because that was so good. And what we had said as well, that the trailer for the DC universe was so awesome, and I got really excited for everything. And now it's just kind of like, well, you're going to have to wait longer.
Yeah.
So it just kind of seems like Morbius all over again.
Yeah. It almost makes that trailer seem kind of pointless, because like that was the big thing, was that these were all coming. Most of them were coming this year, with the exception of Shazam. And like Black Adam is still coming. I guess like Dwayne Johnson's in like the best position, because at least it's still coming out this year. I mean, it was supposed to come out in the summer. Now it's going to come out in October. And I'm guessing maybe they pushed the Flash back because Black Adam would have come out within like maybe 2 or 3 weeks of the Flash, and I guess they don't want to like
Mm-hmm.
compete with themselves. Um, but I don't know. It just like it's all they've already suffered so many delays. It just seems like a weird move, and they didn't really give a reason why they were doing it. I think they tried to
No,
internally try to say it was because of COVID, but like cases are subsiding, and
that excuse is starting to sound pretty weak.
yeah, it's not good to fall back on that when it's like yeah, if things are getting a lot better in most places, so it can't be that like it almost,
And it also is such an early time to say that they're pushing it another year. Like if they had dropped this news in July or something in like the summer
yeah.
when we only have half of the year left, it's like okay, I can kind of see that, but dropping it with in the third month of 2022, it's like all right, well now what's the point of teasing all of these things if we're going to have to wait basically a full year again for all this kind of stuff. So
Right.
it just seems like a weird time to drop that. Maybe they're trying to get ahead of it. They're like, we really are not prepared for all of this.
Yeah.
But it just kind of seems like a weird time to say all that.
And Shazam 2 is in a weird spot. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't know how many people are anticipating Avatar 2. I mean, this was the first one was Once Upon a Time, like the biggest movie domestically at the box office. It is the biggest movie in the world, box office wise. But it's been so long since that first one came out. So I don't know how much people are clamoring for the sequel, but it also seems like a weird move to like release a movie like Shazam against that. Like it's a risky move
Very risky drop.
like on the same
Just
weekend. Like it's extremely risky.
regardless of if people are gonna be excited for it or not, it's gonna make a lot of money. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely gonna go see it
Yeah.
for sure. I know James Cameron's probably got something up his sleeve that's new and we haven't seen before. I mean,
Yeah.
regardless of whether or not you like his movies or not, he is kind of a pioneer. So to see something that I mean, I didn't when he said he was going to make this one, there was certain technology that he still was like, hey, I have ideas of what we want to do, but I don't think we can do it yet.
Yeah,
So
that's why there was such a long wait. Like that's why he kind of was like waiting for technology to catch up to what he wanted to do. And depending on what you how you feel about him, like I love his previous movies. I mean, I guess it's cool that
mhm.
I mean, as an artist, I guess it's cool that he kind of wants to put all his eggs in this basket because he thinks like visually he has a real story to tell, and that narratively he has a story he still wants to tell. But I just miss like his other stuff, and like now he's going to be making Avatar movies for the foreseeable future. Like I don't think he has nothing else
Yeah,
lined up except for sequels.
those are his babies.
Yeah, uh,
Those are his babies.
but yeah, I mean,
Did you ever watch the show Future Man?
I did. Yeah,
So remember how they have the whole James Cameron scene
yep,
where it's like at his house, and it's just that is such the
yeah.
embodiment of James Cameron, where
That's
it's like he wrote the Navi language, and like all these things are just basically his baby, and it was like I kind of knew that already, but
yeah,
seeing it in a TV show was actually really funny.
and like
So if anyone out there hasn't seen Future Man, I definitely recommend it. It's a good one.
yeah, and he's meticulous about his stuff. I mean, I got to interview him late I think November last year. He was like promoting like a book about like his not just his movies, but like all the artwork that he does by hand for his movies, and even projects that we haven't seen yet are just stuff that he worked on when he was like younger as a younger filmmaker. And he is meticulous about what he wants, but he's also like uh purely like a lover of cinema, and you can tell that he loves every aspect
Yeah.
of it. So no matter how we feel about like Avatar is like it's this and Titanic is that,
Hmm.
he's still like he's a filmmaking genius. I would give him all the credit for that. And like so I yeah,
He hasn't made a movie since the first Avatar, has he?
no, he's been working on these sequels. I mean, that's like his
Yeah.
been his life. And like that's why I think it's silly to have Shazam there because I think there is some kind of like anticipation from just fans of James Cameron, not necessarily maybe fans of Avatar, but maybe just fans of James Cameron's work that they want to see what Avatar 2 has to offer. And then to release Shazam against it seems silly. I mean, I don't know if their audience really crosses over, but it is two big releases on the same weekend.
Well, also too, Shazam, the original one, didn't really do super well at the box office when it came out. Like, it had sort of more of like a cult following, I would say. Like people kind of flocked to it after, like once it got onto streaming services. It wasn't really like a huge theatrical release. At least that's what I remember about it. So I mean, maybe they're just releasing Shazam 2 because there's just for like the small amount of people that actually want to go see it. It doesn't really seem like they're trying to. I mean, to even just put it against Avatar, they're just kind of like, all right, well, here's it for the fans. We don't really care if it makes money or not.
Right? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like Shazam, like it made money, but it didn't make like Superman, Batman, DC money. Because I mean, I guess like in the scheme of things, he's a lesser known hero to like normal, regular movie going public.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it wasn't like a huge hit in like the Superman, Batman kind of. I guess the one thing that could make it stand out is that they seem to be going bigger with it. They've expanded the cast, like they improved the costumes a lot as well. I know. I just
probably did a little bit better on their CGI editing.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was decent in the first one, but hopefully they spent a little bit more money to make things a little bit better.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we kind of talked about it in the Batman, but the one I was looking forward to was the Flash, and like to kind of wait for it until, God, I think they said June. It's June 2023, I believe, and Aquaman's in, and then then Aquaman's in March, which I don't really. That's whatever. I could care less about that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
not excited for that one.
But yeah, to like kind of have to, it seemed like they kind of had their stuff together, and like, Marvel fans too think they're just kind of running away from the Marvel movies that are coming out this year. They're like, oh, they don't want to compete with like
they don't want to release it at the same time.
Yeah, they don't want to compete with Thor, the next Thor, like Love and Thunder. They don't want to compete with like the Black Panther sequel. Like they think they're running away.
They're gonna have to get used to it. They're going to have to get used to it, though, because Marvel's going to be releasing like 5 movies a year for the next foreseeable future. So it's like they're going to have to get used to releasing it at the same time and then have fans decide which ones they want to go see.
Right. And by the way, I'm not saying that's what they're doing. This is all fan speculation. I'm not saying Warner Brothers.
It's all,
I'm not saying they're running scared.
It's all theoretical.
But, of course, you go on like social media and like every Marvel fan is like, oh, they're just running away, man, because they're afraid of like failing against these Marvel movies. And,
which they probably...
Right, and you have to remember too, like a lot of these new schedules kind of got created when like movies got pushed back because of COVID. So they landed on all these release dates, and then now studios have to like go back and look and be like, oh wait, when are we releasing this? And like within how many weeks of another movie? Like, I mean, I guess they have to rethink it, but it just adds another like blemish on the whole fact that like Warner Brothers and DC doesn't always have it together when it comes to releasing their movies. It's not a well-oiled machine.
Well, yeah, just seems like no, it's definitely not. It's like I think Marvel, since they have their own, like, I mean, I guess you could say DC Studios, but it's all done through Warner Brothers, and so it's like there's kind of a conflict of interest, it seems.
Yeah.
And Marvel they're basically vertically integrated, like they do everything themselves, and so they're always on the same page with what's going to happen, and it just feels like there's too much red tape for DC to come out something smooth.
Yeah. It's funny too, because like when we had Jack on, he talked about all the kind of the ins and outs of all this, and he kind of was right about like, he really doesn't want to stick by anything they do until like that Discovery like Warner merger is completely done and settled, because like all these people that are at the top there won't kind of be in charge anymore, and there'll be kind of like new eyes on a lot of these projects. And like I think that's what these projects do need. They need more people who actually know what they're doing, kind of steering the ship. Because I honestly don't think it's like the filmmaker. It's not the filmmaker's fault. It's like it's the studio thinking that they know everything. And they're the king of studio interference. So it's pointing that out.
That they are.
And then kind of piggybacking off the comic book news, only because there has been news about this in a while. Deadpool 3 finally has a director, and it is Shawn Levy. Nice. Shawn Levy. He's a controversial choice because on the one hand, he's a great choice for Ryan Reynolds because they've kind of formed a really good second hand. He did Free Guy and the Adam Project, and they did that. Nice. And they did that together. And Ryan Reynolds has talked about how like they've connected on a really good, personal and professional level. But Shawn Levy's directing, his filmography is kind of all over the place. Like you'll find things like Cheaper by the Dozen and its sequel, or like
Jack of all trades,
or like Bringing Down the House, or it's a very interesting mix that doesn't really give you the indication that he could like be the guy for Deadpool 3. but
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Reynolds also has a lot of faith in them because they've worked on these last 2 projects together, and
Yeah,
but
it's going to give Ryan a lot of creative control.
yeah, and I think that's kind of what maybe Ryan Reynolds kind of wants. Because I know the
Yeah.
director of the first movie, Tim Miller, when he was supposed to come on and do the second, the main issue was there was a conflict of interest between him and Ryan Reynolds. There were things that Ryan Reynolds wanted that Tim Miller didn't agree with. So that's why on
Mm-hmm.
the second one, David Leitch came on, and he kind of worked on like the John Wick movies and like kind of understood the kind of like R-rated style that they were going for. And I think
Totally.
he kind of like, you know, stood in his place and was like, I'm here as a director. You're the guy who kind of is running the ship, Ryan Reynolds, even though I'm the director.
The
But
second one was really good.
I thought so too. I think the inconsistency with Shawn Levy as a filmmaker is what worries some people because he's just not. There's nothing really that indicates that he can take on like a Marvel project. But I guess this is not going to be
Mm-hmm.
like a typical Marvel project either. Even though he's in the MCU now, it might kind of play differently than what we're.
Deadpool's kind of had its own thing recently. Like it is Marvel, but since it's R rated and it's basically just Ryan Reynolds running wild, I have a hard time kind of putting it in the same thing as like, oh, as Captain America. Like it's
Right.
not really. It's too meta
Yeah,
um to be really in the universe. It seems.
I agree. It's way too like, but I mean, they're gonna like Kevin Feige, the Marvel head honcho. He promised fans that they're gonna keep it R rated. They're not gonna try to like
Good.
tone it down because it's a part of Disney now. Um,
Yep.
and I think he knows if he doesn't keep that promise that they'll throw stones.
They'll be an outrage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
But
I mean,
it's funny.
oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, speaking of the Adam Project, I still haven't gotten a chance to watch it. I'm probably gonna watch it this week.
It's really
I
good.
thought what was interesting about it was when it first dropped, it wasn't in the top 10 of Netflix, which is like
Oh really?
I was expecting it to be number one. I think it is now, but I remember when I saw it on there and it just said new releases. It wasn't in the top 10, and what was in the top 10 was Shrek 1 and 2, and I thought that
Oh
was actually like really really funny. I was like, they dropped these older movies, and this Adam Project, which I mean, obviously looks like they spent a lot of money on it
yeah.
and did a lot of good things with it. I'm excited to see it, but that was just something that I saw that it wasn't in the top 10 when it originally just like went to Netflix.
Well, hopefully it did better over the week. I thought it was good.
I think it's better now. I think it's on there now.
Yeah, I saw it 2 weeks ago, and I thought it was really good. It's like it's like a solid throwback to like movies of like the '80s, like that kind of have like use your imagination, like kind of like an ET, like Back to the
Yeah.
Future, like that's the kind of vibe it's going for. And Ryan Reynolds,
Hmm.
even though he's doing his like typical shtick, he actually does like a lot of like stuff that he doesn't typically do either, like to kind of show that he has some range, which I thought was pretty
Yeah,
good.
because doesn't it's a little bit more heartwarming, isn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't that kind of like
it's a bit more
like
heartwarming.
he's not just like his shtick
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like he definitely has
He's not just
some good things
he's
where
not
it's
just
like, yeah,
Deadpool. What's up,
yeah,
Janae?
exactly.
Ready to
We're,
talk about
yeah,
my favorite holiday.
we're getting there. We're getting there. We only have one more thing, and that's because we've been talking about the Oscars. So the two last big award shows, other than the PGA Awards, were yet over the weekend, and that was the Critics' Choice Awards and the BAFTA
Hmm.
Awards. It looks like, and I finally did watch this. It was a struggle to watch it. I'm not saying that it's not artistically good, but it's boring. I think The Power of the Dog is going to win everything. It won Best Picture at the.
And you,
Yeah, I think it is.
so wait, you finally watched
I
it?
finally watched it, and it's well acted, and
It's boring, dude.
it's really boring. But it won Best Film at the BAFTA Awards, which is like the British Academy Awards. It won Best Picture at the Critics'
Hmm.
Choice Awards this weekend. She won Best Director, Jane Campion, at both the BAFTAs and the Critics' Choice Awards. She also won Best Adapted Screenplay at the Critics' Choice Awards. So, like, I'm not saying it's like a major, always a precursor to who's going to win the Oscars, but it seemed like that movie and that director are now the front runners to win those big awards.
Seems like when it wins all those things, it's going to be hard for it not to win the Oscar.
Right. And the outlier.
It'll definitely be an upset if they don't win.
Right, and the outlier will be Coda. I think Coda won Best Adapted Screenplay at the BAFTA Awards, and then that Troy Kotsur also won Best Supporting Actor, again making him like one of the, if not the first one, the first deaf actress to win in that category. And then
Wow.
and then every other category was like how do you expected it. Will Smith won both Critics' Choice and BAFTA awards, so he's very close to an Oscar win, I think. And then and I was trying to think else. Oh, Ariana DeBose from West Side Story. She also won Best Supporting Actress. She's won everything so far. And then Jessica Chastain won Best Actress at the Critics' Choice Awards after winning the SAG Award. So it looks like she might be up there too.
I do like Jessica Chastain. I think she's a great actress.
I think so too. I mean, she's one of those people. Like if she wins her Oscar, for me, it'll be just like for her career. Because I didn't love The Eyes of Tammy Faye. She's good in it, but the movie it's kind of lacking. But she is good in it. But yeah, it looks like that's where it's going. Everything else. Dune actually won the most BAFTA awards, but they were all technical. They were all like production design.
Yeah, I can see that.
Sound.
Yeah, production design
and visual effects, which I think he might sweep at the Oscars.
Mm-hmm. That sounds about right to me.
But yeah, the Oscars are March 27th. The big award leading up to that is the PGA Award, which is like the Producers Guild Award, and whatever wins that is usually the film that wins Best Picture. So if the Power of the Dog wins that, and has a good shot of winning Best Picture.
Yeah, sounds about right. But it feels like not very many people like it except critics.
Or a lot of people haven't even seen it. I've tried to bring it up to some people, and they're like, I still haven't watched it, even though it's chilling right there on Netflix. No one's choosing to watch it. But kudos to Jane Campion. If she does win Best Director, she'll be only the third female to win, which is crazy.
That just sounds wild. That stat just doesn't sound real. Yeah, but I guess it is.
But yeah, that's all the news that's out of the way now. And now we're going to just get to the bulk of what this episode is about. St. Patrick's Day is on Thursday, and this is when this episode will drop. And we thought it'd just be fun to talk about some of our favorite party, drinking, getting buck wild movies. movies.
Yeah. And we were talking about it too this weekend, that there's not really a St. Patrick's Day forward movie. You said there's a horror movie.
Yeah, Leprechaun. Yeah.
With Leprechaun. Yeah. But that's not really the movies that we're going to be talking about today.
You can't party the Leprechaun.
Yeah. I think the first one I'll bring up, man, is just Project X. I remember when that movie came out when I was in high school, and still to this day, if I watch that movie, I feel like I need to go party right now. Like it just puts such a obviously it's a story that everything goes haywire, but it just makes me get super hyped and pumped, and the soundtrack is incredible. I think that for a party movie to be successful, you have to have the perfect soundtrack, and Project X just goes above and beyond with that one.
Yeah. I kind of think if you didn't know that Kid Cudi remix of Pursuit of Happiness before that movie, you definitely knew it after you saw Project X. And so that movie actually just turned 10 on March 2nd. I actually thought I was younger when it came out, but it turns out I was 27 when it came out 10 years ago. But I had that same feeling after it let out. I saw it on opening night with a friend that I went to high school with, and like our first thought was like, we need to throw a party, or let's go somewhere that's having a party. And what's funny is that I didn't even know this at the time, but it is loosely based on the house party of Corey Worthington in Australia. And he put his address on MySpace and attracted around 500 people and cost $20,000 in property damage. And I guess that's what they based the movie on. I had no idea that was the case, that there was actually a real...
Yeah, it was definitely a real story. And you can watch the interview with him and the reporter the real one online. Yeah. The dude is a total douchebag.
Okay, I'm going to go against the grain here. I didn't really like Project X because I thought it reminded me too much of Superbad. I feel like it's the same plot.
Those two
I know that it's based on a real event, but it's the whole college or high school party to get laid, and it just, I felt like I was watching a budget version of Superbad.
Yeah, so
I agree. You need to throw a party to be cool.
Yeah,
to get into the good graces of everyone in high school.
It even goes down to the two leads. The two leads remind me of a poor man's like Michael Cera and Jonah Hill.
Michael Cera and Jonah Hill.
Right.
That's so funny that you say that.
Like,
And
I
to say
just,
that
when I, the
funny,
whole time, I actually had never seen it until like what, October?
Yeah.
We watched it together with a few of our friends, and I was just like, yeah, I think Superbad is better, and it's the same. To me, it's the same movie.
It's got the same vibe.
My
for
favorite
sure.
part about it is that Miles Teller plays Miles Teller. That's what I say.
So fun fact about Miles Teller. Miles Teller was hanging out in Hermosa Beach around that time, maybe a little bit before. He wasn't quite Miles Teller yet. So he used to actually go to like, I'm going to name all these places that our listeners won't know, but we know. He used to go to like places like Patrick Malloy's and Sharky's and hang out. And he was nice.
Well, you could tell he wasn't from here. That's where he decided to go.
So true.
He was like nice enough. Like I don't want to call him a douchebag. He was. Nice.
You met him, didn't you?
We met him a few times. He was always really kind of nice, but you can kind of see that there was like an air of like he could be a douche. Like if you gave him like a little bit of an inch, like he might be kind of douchey. But yeah,
like I'm better than you, but I'm not going to let you know, right. Like kind of thing.
And he was hanging out, I think, the opening weekend of that movie or a week after, and that's when people started to recognize who he was a little bit more, and then that's when he stopped going to Hermosa a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought it was funny, and then he had like the similar vibe that he has in the movie, where he was just looking for like a party, like he wanted to like party with people, like he was with friends, but then he would also like talk to random people and try to like meet them and be like, hey, where you guys got going on, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, where's the party at?
Yeah, so this was definitely like pre him being very famous.
Yeah,
but I also found out that they shot this movie on a soundstage. They were gonna shoot it in a real neighborhood, but they were like, no, we don't want to disrupt the neighbors. But the party scenes, they said, were still so loud from the studio lot that they did end up getting calls from the Burbank Police Department on several occasions.
Wow,
because
that's such a cool tidbit.
Yeah, and then most of the people on, even extras, were between the ages of 18 and 22, and there were about like 200 people on set, even though they tried to make it look like there's about 1,000 people like at that party.
Yeah,
but yeah, and they said most of the actors like filmed most of the stuff themselves because it's supposed to be like a found footage like party movie. But it made a lot of money. It only cost like $9 million to make. It made $102 million worldwide by the time it was done in theaters.
Why do you think people like that kind of movie? Like, what do you think is the reasoning behind? Is it just because?
Okay, we watched it with our friend Tara, and she was in high school or coming out of high school right when that movie happened, and she said that it became like a cult favorite in her high school, where people tried to like one up that party, where they wanted to, like if you're in high school, it gives you this idea of like what college is supposed to be like or could be like, and you want to be a part of that, and it looks so fun until you're actually at a party like that, and you're like, this is terrible. Like everyone's throwing up everywhere, everyone is like breaking stuff and fighting, and like until you're actually there, it looks fun.
There's definitely a bit of anxiety I get when you see them destroying the house. You're just like, oh my gosh, that is so terrible.
Maybe it's because I was 30 when I watched it, but I was like, oh no.
But no, the thing that was
my age is showing a little bit.
Clean that up.
The thing that was funny, like, she's so Jenny's so right, because like I had people that would put on Facebook, they're like Project X party, and they would immediately get shut down by the cops. They're like, don't show up to these kind of things. Don't say it's a Project X party. Like, people were always just trying to throw one that was like that. And of course, anytime something like that happened, everyone was talking about it, being like, are you going to go to the Project X party? And like all that kind of stuff. So it does kind of bring a sense of just like bringing everyone together to just have a wild time.
And I think it certainly was a thing. I remember like people were trying to have those parties, and even people like my age at the time. And I was like, I'm in my late 20s. We're not throwing parties like that. Like, I'm not trying to get kicked out anywhere, like, but
basically for the purpose of destruction.
Yeah, basically.
I mean,
I get.
And G and Owen, my house every year, well, before Owen and I moved in, I lived in this big 5-bedroom house, 3 floors. And on Halloween, we would always throw these massive parties that were a little too similar to Project X, with things getting broken and destroyed. And it's all fun and games until you're the host of that and you have to clean it up. And you have to wake up in the morning and spend 5 hours scrubbing stale beer off your floor. Like, once you get older and you realize how much not fun it is to host that, like, it looks fun.
But it's not. And then throwing away unfinished beer. There's always like unfinished beer. There's always like half, like someone just cracked one open.
The fallen soldiers.
Yeah, someone cracked
one. And you would think that it's only like 1 or 2. No, the entire
party is littered.
First floor. It's just half drinking beers and dip spit everywhere. It's gross.
So gross.
Everything.
Yeah. I also think Project X did well because it's supposed to be like a found footage kind of like a real movie, and they didn't really cast like known actors.
Well known.
It gives it a sense that it feels real. And I think it kind of it feels like you're kind of in this with them, that kind of thing. I can't think of I don't know if there's like been a party movie like that before or since, really, that was kind of told from that kind of like. Well, I mean, but I guess told from like it's supposed to be real kind of, because that's the whole thing. It's supposed to be like a real thing. But I think that's why it ended up being like so successful. And
it's a great movie, and I feel like if it ever comes on or I see it, I'm like, I'm down to watch that and just kind of have a good time. And like just the scene when they explode the gnome and everyone starts taking ecstasy, that's just so crazy.
And I also thought that movie gets it right. That whole like anxiety you feel at the beginning of your party when no one's there, because there's that whole scene of like no one's here, no one's showing up, and then all of a sudden before you know
it's like 11 p.m. and then everyone shows up.
They come in droves.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's a good one though. I think like even though I was past the age of like truly enjoying parties like that, even though I still went to them, I can still appreciate. There's so much energy from it. I think that's what I love about the movie. But I also do agree with Jenny. I didn't really like just thinking about how like those two guys are so similar to Michael Cera and Jonah Hill. It does give off the whole like that super bad like kind of duo became like a kind of like a vibe to kind of copy a little bit.
Well, I mean, and even like their personalities, like their character arc, the storyline. I mean, it is loosely based on a real event, but how much of the real event was based on Superbad?
Right, that's true.
I think Superbad's more like a coming of age story, and this just feels more like focused on
big party and.
Yeah, and I guess that's true.
There is the thing with the girl. There's the thing with the girl too. Like, yeah, it does have the same like elements. And then like the main guy is like the kind of neurotic, like the one that's supposed to do everything right, and that's like Michael Cera. And then like his friend is basically like Jonah Hill, like the silly, like absurd one. So I get it.
Trying to mess everything up.
I totally get the same thing. It's not as good as Superbad. I would say that. I think Superbad is better. But I think like the hook in Project X is interesting, where it's like, oh, this is supposed to be like a real. It's not supposed to be like a movie. It's supposed to be something real. So I think that's where it kind of has one leg up.
Yeah, definitely.
Which other one?
Gee, what's your favorite?
I don't know if I'm not gonna say it's my favorite. I'm gonna bring this one up because I brought this up to you guys like in person, but only because I thought this movie is what like bars were gonna be like when I first went to bars.
Yeah,
and that's Coyote Ugly. It's not my favorite party movie, but I got the impression that like. When I turn 21, I'm going to go to bars where like girls set the bar top on fire. They pour they pour water all over themselves and dance in it. Like that's what I thought bars were going to be when I first saw that movie.
Unrealistic expectations.
Very unrealistic expectations.
Instead we end up at dive bars where it's like the same 12 people.
I think that is so cool though, because like when you don't have any precedent to go off of, and that's your only thought, because obviously you're not going to be as a 15-year-old or whatever walking into bars and seeing what it's like. So when you don't really have any base to go off of, obviously you're going to look at that and be like, that's definitely what adults do when they're letting loose. That's definitely a place that people are going to go to.
If you go to Vegas or New Orleans, it is like that, but it's not like that everywhere.
Right, exactly. And I was like, if you ask for water, they're going to shoot you with a water gun. Like I thought like everything about that movie was like realistic. And like at the time when it came out, where Vista is now, where we're located, there was a place called Mermaid, and Mermaid actually had like a signing with all the girls from Coyote Ugly. So it was like Tyra Banks and Piper Perabo. So we all went down there and got our poster signed because we thought we were going to see this like crazy, aggressive movie about working at a bar. And the trailer makes it look like a crazy, aggressive movie about working at the bar. But the fucking bait and switch on that is it's about 15 minutes of that. And then the rest of it is about this girl wanting to be a songwriter and like finding herself while she's like, and she has to work.
I mean, it's kind of like when we were talking about the rom-com episode, they have to do something to get the guys to want to come too. So that's like their bait and switch on you. Like, here's the movie you think you're gonna get, and here's the rom-com that you ended up, or not even rom-com, but like the movie that you end up getting.
Right.
Well, also too, it's like you can show a scene like that with the bar, but it's not really a movie. Like, that's mostly just a music video about people having fun. There's not really any story there, so you obviously have to add other things in there to drive the plot. And so as cool as that scene is, it really doesn't, like, that's all the trailer was just videos of that. And so you go into this movie trying to expect to see mostly that, and then it's definitely a little bit
there are about, I think, 4 scenes that take place at the bar. They're cut into the movie where it seems like they're in there more. They are shot really well. It does look like a music video. I agree with that. They shoot them like they're shooting a music video. And that's how they definitely got people in on opening weekend, at least guys. And like, I can appreciate the movie now as like an adult, because I'm like, all right, it's fine. It's cute. And the bar stuff is fun. The real Coyote Ugly, at least the one I went to in Vegas, is not like that at all either. The girls that get on top of the bar, the girls that get on top of the bar they don't look like Tyra Banks. And like, what?
Well, beggars can't be choosers. You don't get it both ways.
Little dose of reality right there for you guys.
But you know, in the movie, there's that whole scene at the bar where they have like the girls inside like take off their bras and they put them on like the clothesline. The night that we went in Vegas at the New York where Coyote Ugly is, they were doing that night. But the girls that were taking off their bras, again, did not look like Tyra Banks. It was
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say that most women do not look like Tyra Banks.
I know.
Yeah. 1 in a million.
I blame fucking Jerry Bruckheimer produced that movie, and Jerry Bruckheimer is mostly known for like doing like Bad Boys and like stuff like that. He's like an action guy. So I feel like he took all his like action stuff and tried to like make it work for this movie about girls working at a bar. And he was like, all right, I will sell it on tits and ass to get guys to come. And then like then the girls will be all surprised when they're like, no, this is like about my dream. I want to be a songwriter, and maybe I want to
I don't want to work in a bar for the rest of my life.
And then while I'm trying to raise money, I'll work at this cool place in New York, like whatever. It's a major bait and switch though. But I kind of agree with you about how like I think a movie can be made about working at a bar. I mean, because you have Waiting, which is like kind of like the whole restaurant industry a little bit. And then Tom Cruise did a movie called Cocktail, which isn't so much about working at a bar. It's just about him being a bartender.
Yeah.
But I think I think a good movie can be made about like that lifestyle. I mean, we see it all the time when we go out. I mean, like you could make a movie about the people that work there and the people that frequent there.
I mean, how many times have we said that Hermosa Beach needs its own reality show? Like the bartenders, us. I mean, I could never be on that. I would not have a career if I allowed a reality TV crew to follow me around.
I don't think most of
us. But I mean, how many times have we said it? Just like, you know, because we live in a small beach town where you see the same people every week at the bar and the interactions and the drama. And I mean, I think it would make, I don't know necessarily a movie, but a good reality show.
Yeah, I can see that. And then there will be people down there that were so willing to make a fool of themselves. Like, we could just spectate. We wouldn't even have to be on it. We could just sit back and watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Watch the chaos ensue.
All right. What's one of your go-to party movies for you, Jenny?
Okay, I'm going to switch from movie to TV show.
Perfect.
I'm going to take it back, 12 or 13 years to the TV show Greek.
Oh, I used to love Greek.
Okay, me too. So the TV show is loosely based off of where I went to school at Miami of Ohio, and our Greek life and our Greek system. And I just remember being like a junior or senior in high school and watching the show and the parties that they had and like the Greek life socials and all the fun theme events and just like being like ticking the days off on my calendar until it was like my turn to go to school and my turn to like go and frequent like these
have fun
these sorority and fraternity events. And like I don't know. It's nostalgic. Like I've watched it back a few different times, and it's interesting to look back at like what I thought of it before I was in Greek life, and then when I was a little bit older and like removed from like my sorority and the fraternity life. I think it does a pretty good job in terms of like the social scene and like explaining the importance of like which fraternities and sororities you socialize with.
Right.
But I think it's really mostly realistic, and it reminds me like very positively nostalgic of my college time. So it's more,
it takes it back.
it's more like heartwarming. Yeah. Like when I'm like stressed in my career and I'm like, man, I want to remember college times. Like I can go back and watch it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the flip side of like Blue Mountain State, where it's just like completely unrealistic of what college is really like.
Yeah.
And being a football player and basically just having everything handed to you.
Basically.
Which also could be true. I didn't play football in college, so I don't know if that's realistic or not.
I didn't go to a big football school, so that was not the case for my college, but I think it depends. Like if you're at one of the Big Ten schools or SEC,
Yeah.
you know,
Could be like that.
Clemson and the ACC.
I think shows like Greek too, because it was on like ABC Family, and that like they had to like rebrand their network because they were like, okay, we started as like this ABC Family kind of like, okay, we have like shows aimed at like teenagers, but they're not like anything bad. But then they started bringing shows on like Greek and then like Pretty Little Liars, and like then it became like, okay, this network can't really be called ABC Family because we're like kind of towing the line of like what's
we're not. It's into like Freeform or something or Free Flow.
Freeform.
Freeform.
I prefer Free Flow though. That sounds better. Free Flow. But yeah, I remember that about Greek. I was like, well, it feels like it shouldn't be on this network, but I guess it works. It felt like it was a little too like the audience that they were trying to like gear it to. It was like, well, they're not gonna get this. Like no one like ABC Family's on.
But I think that brings up a good point, though, maybe why I feel like it does, on like Blue Mountain State or Project X, I do think it is a positive and accurate depiction of like Greek life because it was on that network. They couldn't be having like people dropping X and like going buck wild, you know, like it is like I would guess, and I can't speak for everywhere, but most college parties or adult parties, it's nothing like these big crazy movies that you two talked about. It's a lot more tame. And because it was on that network, it had to be more tame, which made it more realistic. So I don't feel like it oversold my expectations of being in a sorority or like my social life and what it would look like in college. I think it was a pretty fair and accurate depiction of that, which I think I like. I don't like movies where I feel like if I'm not experiencing this, then I'm missing out. Like I have such FOMO that like, if like, you know, like I watch Project X and I'm like, well, why am I not invited to movies like that? Like, am I not cool enough? Like, what's wrong with my social life? So I always opt for more realistic stuff because I get FOMO off stuff that like isn't even real.
I do like the idea that you saw it for the first time at 30. I'm sorry, going back to like you mentioning that you saw Project X at 30. I mean, I was 27, but like, you know, I guess the perception of what that movie is way different when you're like 30 years old.
Way different.
Yeah.
Compared to like
we were with like our two friends and Owen, and they'd all seen it and they were just like laughing, and I was like, I don't know that I find that funny. And maybe I just have, I mean, I know we have different senses of humor, but like because they had grown up watching it and had seen it so many times, it was funny. Whereas for me, I'm looking at it from like this older lens, and I'm like, that's not funny.
No, did it make you want to party? It doesn't
look fun, and it doesn't look enjoyable.
Okay, you just answered me. Okay, I was like, did it make you want to party? Or are you like, no, it didn't look fun?
No. I mean, I looked at that and I was like, that is exactly the kind of party that I never want to be at. Like, I don't know. It made me feel old. I'll say if that's what you're asking me. Like, I'm like, is this who I am? Is this like where I'm at in my 30s?
Where you're like, this is insane.
That I think like they're all laughing and they're like, yeah, this is great. And I'm like, that looks horrible. That looks like the kind of party I would like go to the corner and be like, I'm going to go to the bathroom and sneakily like run to the corner and like call my Uber and like Irish goodbye.
Where'd she go? Just texted that you're already at home. Yep. Yeah, it's a little.
Yeah, that's just a straight up no for me.
It's a little too chaotic, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to pull someone. Someone sent a message. They were like, "Hey, can you mention Dazed and Confused which I guess.
Mhm.
So when I think about Dazed and Confused, though, I guess I don't think about partying. I think more about getting high. But I guess it does.
Yeah,
But I guess
it's
it
more
does.
like
But I
a
guess it does. I mean, you
stoner.
can go either way, though. But
I mean, we do have 420 coming up in a month. We can always do a stoner movie
that's right. I
episode.
think that one would be a highlight of like that episode too. But I guess it does give you that kind of sense of feeling of like it reminds you of what it's like to kind of be in that environment a little bit. Like, because there was
Mhm.
someone else
Yeah.
mentioned like American Pie, which I guess is not really like a party movie, but there are things about it that kind of evoke that a little bit, I would say.
Okay, if we're going to bring up American Pie, then I'm going to put that in the same category and same character arc and plot line as Project X and Superbad. Like
Yeah.
kids throwing a party, trying to lose their virginity,
Trying to
get laid, wanting to be cool, and their way of doing that is by throwing a big party or having these big parties.
Mhm.
Yeah, and still,
I mean, American Pie brings in like the other elements
Yeah.
because it's not just about this one night or this one party, but there's a lot of like correlation there too.
yeah. American Pie taught me that you have to watch your cups at parties because once you leave,
Oh, yeah.
once you leave them unattended, you might get some stuff in it. Like our boy,
Ugh.
That makes me want to have a sip of my beer.
our boy Stifler got some nastiness in his cup in the first.
Oh, he deserved it. He was such a douche.
First movie.
Stifler was
And I
funny,
think in
though.
the second movie, he gets like peed on, like from over the balcony, and yeah. There's a lot of that going on too.
That's his like karmic
Justice.
repayment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think bringing up American Pie, I do think it's funny, and I always forget her name. Oh, Jennifer Coolidge, Stifler's mom.
Yes.
It's kind of funny because that movie cemented her in time as Stifler's mom. Like I have seen her in other movies, like A Cinderella Story with
You will always
Hilary
be
Duff
Stifler's
and
mom.
Chad Michael Murray. And like
She's
every
just
single
Stifler's
time I
mom.
see her, yeah, like she will never, ever, ever be anything but Stifler's mom.
Yeah, I can only see that. Oh, someone said, please bring up Beer Fest. So I've only seen Beer Fest once.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Beer Fest.
Yeah.
So, it's such a different sort of like that whole humor, like with Jay Chandrasekhar, I think his last name is. Like his whole style of comedy is super slapstick, and like I think there's a lot of really good moments in it. But what I did like about Beer Fest and kind of from a lot of these other movies too is how just like something like the Das Boot can become a staple in regular life, like
Yeah.
just something like
Yeah.
that, and a lot of these like sort of drinking tropes and things that have become popular have started from a movie, and so like
Mm-hmm.
Beer Fest is definitely. I don't really like the act. There's one actor who was in Super Troopers as well, and gosh,
I can't remember his name.
I can't remember.
right now.
I can't remember
I'm
his
trying to remember
name.
his.
But there's like one character. There's like one actor. I think it's like Eric Stoltz or something. No,
You missed my funny joke.
Uh,
You went right by it.
I'm gonna put,
I said you can't remember his name, right, Meow?
right now. No, I can't.
I'm gonna
Come on, tell me I'm funny.
That was good.
I'm gonna pull up the cast list and see who's.
But it's not the guy from Full Metal Jacket. It's not Jay. It's not I think his name's Eric something.
It's Eric Stolhansky. Is that who you're thinking of?
Yeah.
And then there's
Yeah,
and,
I just don't.
and there's Eric Christian Olsen as well. There's a lot of people in this movie. And Will
but
Forte.
that's just one actor from Super Troopers and Beer Fest that I've never personally enjoyed. So and he's like one of the main characters in that movie. So I have sometimes a hard time enjoying those scenes. But I just love the like USA versus Germany, who always wins, and just like them training, and it is kind of sad because it really just glorifies getting wasted.
Yeah.
And like that's not necessarily like I don't even think that Beer Fest is a real thing. Like Oktoberfest is a thing, but it's mostly about like enjoying Germany, I think it is,
Right.
rather than like just getting blacked out. So that's the one thing that I was going to bring up about these movies is that they're so great, but even something like Project X just kind of really glorifies the getting wasted, drunk, getting high on a bunch of different types of drugs. And like, I think that for certain kids, like that could be kind of dangerous especially if you're aiming that towards teenagers.
Yeah.
I would say when Project X and all that came out, not that the drug usage has ever been okay, but it was a different landscape. like now with like, I mean, not to bring this serious, but now with like fentanyl and everything that's out there, like that is a really dangerous slippery slope because they might want to emulate that, buy cheap, crappy shit, and it can go south real quick, you know. But I would say the movies now aren't glorifying it.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much.
But back in the day,
I feel like the late 90s, 2000s, like all the ones that were geared towards us, like when I was growing up in high school, like it kind of like, because I wasn't going to parties like that yet when those movies were out.
Right.
And like, so, but there was like this sense of like, okay, these are teen movies. They're aimed at teenagers. And they're like, I was always questioning, like, where the fuck are they getting alcohol? Where are they getting all this stuff? I didn't know at the time, like, how you get your hands on stuff like that. But they it's so easy.
Like,
but it's also like indicative of the time too. Like back in the 90s, early 2000s, like cocaine and heroin chic was like what they called the models. Like you had to look like you didn't eat for days. You know what I mean? And so like it's telling of the time when that was like what people wanted to do and be. And I would say that it's not that case now.
Also, a lot of the thing too of like, I don't have a chance with this girl, but if we both get drunk together, then
that's such a slippery
that's like
narrative.
My best chance to get with her. I mean, and Superbad kind of does it too, but it goes away from that because Jonah Hill's character is saying, "Oh, you would never get with me if you weren't drunk." She's like, "Well, I do like you." Like that's
right.
And then it kind of goes away from that. So I think that's a good interpretation. But things like American Pie for sure have basically like, all right, as long as we have alcohol, then there's a good chance
she'll be down.
Yeah, she'll be down, and maybe I'll get laid.
And can't hardly wait. Like Seth Green is so desperate to have sex that like he comes across that Asian girl who's like crying about her boyfriend breaking up with her, and his thing is like, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that like she is upset, vulnerable, and drunk. And it's played for comedy. I mean, it is funny in the moment, but when you like kind of take a step back and think about it, like, yeah, that's what they were selling to us when we were like 13, 14 years old.
I mean, I'll throw Knocked Up in there too with Seth Rogen and Katherine Heigl. Like she has to rip all those shots to even consider giving him a chance. You know, I mean that one, the narrative is a little bit different.
There's consequences for your actions.
Well, there's the consequence, and she's not the one plying her with alcohol. She's the one that's like, I want a shot, I want another shot. Like.
And he's just kind of going along for the ride.
Right. And she's the one that drives it, which is interesting because she said that movie was so misogynistic, which when you think about it, she
got paid.
Right. But she made her choices in the movie, her character.
Yeah, after she got paid, after it made a bunch of money opening weekend, that's when she decided to say, like, it's so misogynistic. Like, I don't know.
But like,
can't stand.
I mean, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. But I mean, she was the one that was like, I'm going to just rip shots until I'm drunk enough to fuck him. Yeah. And then she was the one that like wanted to decide to keep it, which is fine. But like her character had the choice and was in the driver's seat the whole way. It was her choice. So I don't agree with her. We can talk about that another time. But I mean, that's just another example though of like using alcohol to either convince someone to hook up with you or to get yourself drunk enough to do something you wouldn't want to do sober, which is a very slippery narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we see it in real life too, don't we? I mean, it's a really tough thing that certain movies do try to sell, and they do sell it for jokes a lot of times. And like, and like when we're watching it in the moment, we don't think about like how like bad it looks. But I mean, that's the thing about this podcast.
The teenager is watching it.
Yeah, the thing about this podcast is like not just this episode, but other episodes we've done where we've talked about like stuff that's older. And like we talked about like, we talked about Buffy last week and a few other things where it's like, oh, this shit it translates much differently now compared to when it came out like in the 90s and 2000. Like it's just a much different time.
Well, and you guys talked about it, I think, in another episode, like with Euphoria and just like the dark matter. And like the question becomes, whose responsibility is it? Is it the movie creator's responsibility to mold an impression, like, and give kids these impressions, or is it on the viewer to understand that movie is based?
It's not real life.
Yeah, it's based in fiction.
Yeah,
but like, who's responsible? Like, is it the movie's job to not make these kids want to party and drink and like misuse alcohol and potentially, get themselves in a sticky situation, or is it on the viewer to understand that what they're seeing is not necessarily a depiction of reality?
Right, and because speaking,
I guess I'll go back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kind of going back on what I said then, because like I was the one for Euphoria saying like you shouldn't change it. Their job is they're telling a story. And if you aren't okay with the content, then you shouldn't be putting yourself in that situation to watch it. So I guess I'll even kind of go back on my own statement and say, like, it's not really the job of the movie to tell people to drink responsibly. But sometimes, like, I think Beer Fest is different because the movie is literally just about drinking. That's the only thing about it. So, like, it is just like a raunchy, like, late night comedy. Yeah. So if you don't, and it's rated R. So if you can't, if you're gonna let your kids watch it and glorify it, then it's on you.
Yeah.
And a lot of these movies weren't kept away from me when I was a teenager. I mean, like, something like Can't Hardly Wait, I saw on my own when I was a teenager. Like American Pie, I saw on my own with friends as a teenager. Like, I mean, were these movies kept, like any of these movies that kind of came out when you were like teenagers, were they kept away from you, or were you easily accessible to you where you're like, I mean, they were sold to us. Like, they were sold to, like, that demographic.
They were definitely kept away from me.
Yeah,
I definitely had a little bit of a stricter upbringing, and, like, I couldn't watch whatever I wanted to watch, which now I think is good. I mean, looking back on it, I think that there were some things that I wasn't allowed to watch, and I probably wasn't ready for it at the time. So, like, that was my parents' job of making sure that I wasn't doing anything or watching anything that was, like, inappropriate for me at the time. But because I didn't see American Pie until I was in, like, late high school.
Oh wow.
And yeah, I wasn't, and, like, I felt like I was, like,
missing out on a joke.
Well, not even. I kind of felt like I was missing out on a joke, but also when I finally watched it, I was like, I don't think I should be watching this. Like, kind of like it was one of those kind of things. So yeah, it's definitely different now, obviously, where I can just watch whatever I want. But
yeah.
And see, I'm the third of 4 kids, and my older sister is, how old is she? 2 years older than me. My older brother is a year older than me. And so when we were younger and we were all kind of at the age where it wasn't appropriate, it was definitely gate kept. But then once, like, Brittany and Matt, my sister and brother, started getting older, it was kind of like once it was fine for the oldest, it was fine for the rest. Because
you just got the benefits of it as a younger
kid. They were like, okay, well, if they're watching this kind of stuff, we're not going to keep it. And we're all so close in age, right? Like, she's only a year, he's a year, and she's 2 years older than me. So at that point, they're like, well, she's going to hear about it and see it anyway. So my ability to watch those kind of movies got easier. Like, once I got to high school, it's kind of like, we can't
really
stop
keep it from you.
Yeah. And I want to say I wasn't easily influenced by these movies because, of course, I knew right from wrong, but I would see something like a Can't Hardly Wait and be like, I want to go to that, like, end of the year, like, high school party. That looks fun. And, like, and I would see stuff like even talking about, like, Project X. Like, I mean, like, I would want that. That seems like it'd be a good time. I want to do that. Like, there was a lot of stuff that, like, you know, of course I knew, like, I couldn't get into that kind of, and those kind of shenanigans without consequences. But, like, you did see those movies and you're like, that looks fun. That looks like something I would like to do. I would like to do that. That looks like a lot of fun. Or even like seeing something like Coyote Ugly when I'm a junior in high school. I'm like, bars look fun. Like, I can't wait to go to a bar if that's what they're going to be like. You know, like, that's the kind of impression I got, like, watching a lot of this stuff. Like, I can't wait to, like, rip shots at a bar. Like, if it's gonna be, it's gonna be just like
and
that.
Now it's an every weekend occurrence for us, right?
Yeah, now it's an every weekend occurrence, and girls still don't dance in the bar top.
But I think kind of going to like, with current times now, there really hasn't been, like, a big party movie that's come out very recently at all. And I wonder if that's because there's a lot of red tape you have to get through in order to make something like that.
Or, like, even, like, the Me Too movement and the focus on that. You have to make sure that it's not too misogynistic. It's not too overtly sexual. It's not too rapey with, like, get her drunk and sleep with her. And that, while none of that is, like, per se okay and should be in a movie, it does take away from a lot of the plot lines of the movies that we saw in the past in this genre.
So I don't even know if it would make money now.
Yeah, I think the string of them that were successful, even after the ones we've talked about, like the ones that were geared towards us as teenagers, but then you had, as we got older, you had stuff like The Hangover, which did make a lot of money, and they were successful. And like, I mean, I think a lot of people would consider at least the first one like one of the better, like, kind of like party type movies,
classic movie,
of all time.
Yeah.
Everybody can quote The Hangover,
and like, but the sequels, another story. They're not really that good. I think like something like
Cheap.
I think Neighbors got the college vibe a little right too. That movie was
Neighbors is good.
Zac Efron.
The sequel not so much, but like at least the first one. I think a lot of the problem is that like these comedies don't make a lot of money anymore. Like they're not for whatever reason they're not as successful. Unless they try.
Neighbors was definitely successful.
That was the first one was. The sequel wasn't. But
that's also just the magic of Seth Rogen. Like he has such a following that he makes a lot of really good movies. So
I mean, in my mind, Seth Rogen falls in the drinking and stoner movie. Like, what movies do I want to watch when I'm drinking and I want to have fun, and what movies do I want to watch when I take an edible and it's time for bed?
Right, and I'm going to say this a lot. I'm going to say a lot of this with allegedly, because this is just like Hollywood, like secret talk, allegedly. But when Zac Efron was making Neighbors, allegedly, he got into character a lot, allegedly, which is when a lot of his problems kind of started when he was getting into trouble, like a little bit. I think I told you that story.
Allegedly.
That story, allegedly, when he got busted on Skid Row by a cop. And they were like, what are you doing over here? And he was like, oh, I'm looking for a sushi restaurant. Because he was like, what?
Like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Not on Skid Row, sir.
Not on Skid Row.
Well, I mean, and allegedly he was here in Hermosa Beach where we live well after his rehab, ripping shots in the corner, allegedly. I'm not saying I saw him do it or anything. Please don't sue me, Zac Efron. But, I saw someone that looked like him while he was living here, allegedly doing that in the corner.
So, yeah, there's that too. I mean, my thing is about Neighbors is that like he's actually very funny in it. Like he's pretty great, but like I guess it's not hard for him to kind of play like a good-looking like frat like boy. The
role was built for him.
I was gonna say I don't feel like he's acting at all. I think that's just him.
And I think he just kind of tried to dial it up by 10 by allegedly like partying a little bit more outside of filming.
He was method acting.
He was pulling the Jared Leto on us. That's what he was doing. Before we close out, I do want to mention, because we said that there's no like St. Patrick's Day that we could think of movies. The only thing I can think of is there's an episode of The Simpsons when The Simpsons was still funny. It's in season 8, and it's when it's called Homer versus the 18th Amendment. And they actually ban alcohol in Springfield after Bart accidentally gets drunk at the St. Patrick's Day festival. And
nice.
And it's a really funny episode. And when like all the moms come to like the mayor's like house and demand that he ban alcohol, and they're like, well, why won't you
prohibition, baby?
They're like, well, why won't you ban it? And he says, you can't seriously want me to ban alcohol. It tastes great, makes women appear more attractive, and makes a person virtually invulnerable to criticism. So that was the reason why he did not want alcohol banned in Springfield.
Oh my god!
It's one of the like early. It's like the early like golden age of Simpsons when that was still kind of funny. But yeah, like Bart gets majorly drunk. He like is just dancing in the middle of the street, and then like they shoot off this like cannon of beer, and he catches it all in his mouth, and then passes out drunk in the middle of the street. And then that's when they realize they have to ban alcohol. But then Homer starts making his own beer in the basement. So of course Homer.
That's such a great
indicative of prohibition.
That was probably when Conan was writing for him.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because it's early. It's early Simpsons, so that's when it was still good before it was on too long. But yeah.
Well, the history teacher in me loves the title of it. The 18th Amendment is prohibition. So I appreciate the accuracy.
But yeah,
maybe help a student out on AP Gov for knowing that amendment.
Yeah.
We just got someone a test score, test quiz.
One day, one day, I think we will make our own St. Patrick's Day movie, and make it happen. And it'll take place in the bar. We're just gonna like knock off a bunch of checks at once. It's gonna take place at a bar and be about our friends, and take place on St. Patrick's Day. And then we'll be like, here's
I think your movie. We should have recorded Saturday, and I think that would have checked all of the boxes of our weekend.
You guys, I won't go into detail, but it was just a lot going on. And that always happens when like someone's like, let's do Irish car bombs. I'm like, yeah, it sounds good in the moment. And then 4 Irish car bombs later, you're like, why did we say yes? I'm going to admit this because I'm not embarrassed. I actually bought pizza from this place called Paisanos that's like right by the bars where we live. And I was so hungry before I went to go meet up with Owen here and Kayla. and I was just trying to eat before like the Uber situation happened, and I drunk stumbled, spilt the whole box, and then got some of it.
I would have eaten it anyway.
No, and
I think I would have picked it up and eaten it.
Almost did, and this girl came behind me, and she was like, "Don't do that." And I was like, "Ah!" And then I just jumped in the car.
I wouldn't have been guilted out of it. I would have been like, it's me or the pizza right now.
Wow.
Have you ever been like that hungry when you're like, I need to eat this right now, and it just like full on like fell on the ground? I was,
well, and also, if we would have recorded this past week, it would have been like all of us on very individual, separate journeys, like weave in and out of. It would have been like a Valentine's Day, or He's Not That Into You, where there's like 8 different subplots that all weave into one.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're trying to figure out the connection to each plot line.
And then they all of a sudden they can Pulp Fiction. That would have been that was our movie. We should have just like taken out our phones and just recorded it.
Perfect.
You guys should, for all the local, like everyone who's in LA, you guys should have everyone come meet you out, like on a Saturday, like a Back to the Blockbuster meeting.
From
your own movie.
There's one actor actually. He's not like a big actor, but he's Instagram verified, so he's been in stuff. He actually found our Back to the Blockbuster, found that first before he found the G-Reels page, and like has been messaging me about like collaborating on ideas and stuff. So I think that's really cool to kind of like.
I'm sure he's really going to want to hop on once you said he's not that big of an actor.
Oh, we already
great plug, Gabe.
Great plug for him. I'm sure he's really invested now.
It was his words, not mine.
But he was verified for what it counts for.
He is verified. They were his words. We already talked about it. It's cool. Yeah, this is the most Hermosa Beach episode we ever talked about Hermosa Beach.
Yeah.
Because I'm here.
Yeah, we're gonna have to like do some tagging and some stuff with some of their pages.
Yeah. And everyone out there, everyone who's listening, PSA, please drink responsibly, guys. Please enjoy a beverage. Yeah, have some water. Maybe crack open a Heineken 00, non-alcoholic
that
beer.
You didn't drop on the floor.
On your floor, yeah. And like I don't know, St. Patrick's Day is on a Thursday, guys. So it's a weekday. It's still a school night. So don't go too crazy. Maybe just watch Project X at home.
Yeah, watch Project X.
Or
pretend you're there.
Coyote,
maybe wish you're not.
Yep. Drink a Guinness and call it a day.
I'm still on the fence about that day. So like I don't even know. I feel like I got it all out on Saturday. It's we're going to be responsible, but we encourage you guys to have as much fun as you want on St. Patrick's Day this year.
Exactly, guys. Everyone out there, have fun.
But maybe spend it with a movie. I will.
Yeah.
I just want to bring up what we're doing next week. I believe Owen will finally get to do his deep dive for No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men. We're going to be diving into that, one of my favorite movies. I'm really excited to really, like it, just like what it says, dive deep into it. So can't wait. Yeah,
it'll be good because nothing else is really opening right now. It's still just the Batman until that Sandra Bullock movie comes out at the end of the month, which premiered at South by Southwest and already has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I know it's going to drop from there, but they say that her and Channing Tatum are actually very good at it together. So I'm actually seeing that early, like within the week. So hopefully I can report back that it is that good.
See, we'll get a good look at Daniel Radcliffe and see if he'll be able to do Weird Al.
Oh God. And then other than that, no, I can't think of anything else. We have a pod raid this week on Twitter. They actually get a list of all of the podcasts that are in this Twitter group, and I joined when we first kind of opened our podcast, and we finally are up on the pod raid. So the pod raid basically is everyone in the group, and there's like 100 to like 120 people in the group, different pages. They all basically go to Apple Podcasts, they go to Good Pods HQ, they go to Spotify. They basically raid all your stuff and rate it and review it and subscribe if they already aren't subscribing. And then they share your page with their friends. So it basically gives you like a huge signal boost for the day. So it should be a pretty good week for us.
Will this episode be out by then, or is that happening after we drop?
So the pod raid actually lasts all week. So it's not just so it's not just gonna. It used to be one day, but then they realized that everyone can't get to the page in like one day, so they will do it for the whole week. So it's all spread out. And I'm glad that we're up, so it'll be good. It's going to be a good week for us.
That's going to be great. Great to see.
Rate these two cuties well. How could you not love them? Look at their faces.
Yay! All right, Owen, you can sign us out.
Yeah, guys, as always, thanks for tuning in. You can listen to us wherever you want to listen to a podcast. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're going to be up on YouTube again. We've been trying out a few different streaming services, so I think we're going to find the right one, and this one's been great so far. So I think our sound quality is going up, and everything just continues to get better. We have pretty much an episode lined up every single week until like July. So we got a lot of stuff that we have planned, and we're going to start talking about. So keep tuning in, and just everyone have a great St. Patrick's Day. I know we might crack open a Guinness and enjoy it as well. So just out there, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it, guys.
Peace. Cheers. Later, guys.